Hey everybody, welcome back into the garage and the 300ZX Turbo project behind me here. Today's video, I'm going to be changing out the oil pressure sender unit. Alright, so oil pressure sender unit. My oil pressure gauge started acting a little funny, and I started starting up the car this spring, getting it ready to get back on the road after all this restoration. And now I've had it out a couple of times and the oil pressure gauge is not working at all. The warning light's still working, so the warning light comes on with the ignition and then goes out when you start up. So I'm confident I have oil pressure, but the sending unit itself that's giving the signal for what the pressure is to the gauge isn't working. So I've ordered it from Rock Auto. Now this is a digital dash, which means you need the very special, very expensive one, of course. So I've ordered one that claims to work with the digital dash. Hope it will. So we're going to dig in now and get that removed and replaced. Okay, so this is an 86 turbo. So Z31 platform. That's the VG30 ET motor that's in it, the 3-liter V6. And the oil pressure sending unit is basically right there. There's your oil filter. Down there's part of the starter, the solenoid. And that black thing you see there is actually the plug and the plug cover that plugs into the sending unit. I've had it off once and cleaned the plug up in case it was something that simple, and it wasn't. So what we're going to drop the starter. I have read you can get this without. Frankly, for 2 bolts, I'm going to get that starter out of the way. And I also want to clean up all the contacts on the starter and the grounds, because I think I have a little bit of a voltage drop across the ground down to that there as well. So we're going to do that while we're doing it. So we'll take that out, 2 bolts, a couple of connections, and that should let me get to the sending unit, unscrew it from the block. Okay, so here we are under the car. Got a jacked up jack stand, of course. Be safe if you're working under the car. And here's a starter. And right here, transmission, of course, clutch, slave cylinder. I believe that's one of the bolts, and the second one is right up here where these ground cables are. So those are 14 mil socket. Those 2 there. There's an electrical plug. Has to be disconnected there, and then there's the power line that comes down from the battery here to be disconnected on the solenoid, and this should lift out of the way and should be able to see the pressure switch underneath that. So we'll get the 2 14 mils out. We'll try and get a wrench on this here and get this strap loosened off, and it should just come out, he said. Famous last words. But let's have a go. Okay, so I have both these bolts out, like I said, or 14 mil socket. I have the power cord disconnected. That's a 13 mil wrench you'll need. I have the plug here, which I believe is the ignition switch, switching power going to that. That's disconnected. So now I should be able to just move it forward and disengage the gear here that engages the flywheel. And in theory, it should now wiggle free and come off. I'm not sure how much you're going to see in the video versus me locking, but we're going to have a go here. And I guess by the marks, people have tapped at this before. Okay, well, there it is. It did take a little bit of, what should we use? Persuading. So, a couple of taps and then a screwdriver just in between there, and down it came. So, all right, starter's out. Should be able to look up there now and see the oil pressure sender. Okay, so we look up under there. There's this aluminum shield that goes behind the starter, your oil filter, of course. This is the sending unit. So I've got a plug here, and I know I just pull that back and squeeze, and that plug's going to come off easily. And then we got to get this unthreaded from the block, so we can put the new one in. Okay, so I've got the oil pressure sender unit loose. Use English here. Took a 17 mil wrench on it to get it off. Now it's just unthreading by hand, of course. And there's a little bit of oil in it there. So luckily we put the tray there. Oh, you will have oil, have something to catch it. And this is the one we've taken off. And I genuinely can't tell if that's an OE like the original one or not. Anyway, that's off. There's a new one. There's a new one they sent me that's supposed to be the right one. I'm going to check the plug first before I get it screwed on, just to make sure. And if it is, then we'll screw it on and see how it goes. Okay, so I have a new sensor in place, just thread it in, tighten it up. The new one took a 14 mil wrench, the old one took a 17 to remove. So I'm not sure which to say to use, but have your wrenches ready, I guess. Cleaned the plug, sprayed it with electrical cleaner, put it back on, put the boot cover back on to help protect it there. I've cleaned all the contacts, the grounds for the starter motor. I've cleaned up the starter motor, so it's ready to put back in now. Oh, I should also point out I did unplug that sensor there because that wire runs right across. Which is a good thing because as the starter came down, it probably would have just broken it. So yeah, there's the starter. Just cleaned it up. I mean, it's right by the oil filter, so it gets a mess sometimes, I guess, with oil changes. So again, all the contacts have been cleaned up and everything. So we'll get it back in, thread everything back on, tighten it down. Okay, there's the starter back in. It's just a case of pushing it up into place here. It sets in, and then just rotating it very slightly till the two bolts line up. Make sure you put them in finger tight because they're going into aluminum. You don't want to strip anything. 13 mil wrench for the power connection there. Plug that in. That's the ignition switch. Plug that sensor back in. I have an additional ground strap here that I've put in. There's the one that goes up to the top bolt, comes down from the battery. I've just put this additional one in that goes from here up to the chassis here to help, because I've got a bit of a voltage drop going to the starter, so I'm hoping that's going to help. Other than that, it's all connected, everything's cleaned up, so we should be able to put the wheel on, put her down, and see if A, the starter still works, and B, the pressure oil pressure switch actually does register pressure. Alright, there we go. We have oil pressure and we have volts because we did the alternator before. Excellent, and it started really well, so I think maybe the cleaning off all the ground straps certainly seemed to help there. Well, there we go. That's the oil pressure sender switch changed, and the oil pressure gauge is reading again, which is really nice. Whilst it's, I knew with the warning light working that my oil pressure was fine, it's always nice to see the gauge instead of sitting at 0 showing oil pressure. And I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, because having to take the starter motor out let me clean up all the contacts down there, and that seems to have made the difference, that it's firing again right off, not having to crank slowly. So I think the voltage drop that I was experiencing there has been fixed as well. So 2 birds with 1 stone. Well pleased with that. So thanks for watching. I hope it's helpful to you if you're going to be changing out your oil pressure sensor switch, or I guess for that matter, you're changing the starter motor. I hope I see you back here in the garage. Likes or subscribes are always appreciated for the channel. And you all have an awesome day out there.